Okay, so now we have our main key light, we have our fill light, we have our backlight. They're all in position, they're all pointing the right way, but we haven't done anything to deal with any of the parameters of the lights. And Maya, if nothing else, includes lots of parameters for almost everything. So let's deal with a little bit of that. I'm going to start with the main key light here, which is a directional light. And I'm not going to select it. I'm just going to come over here to the attribute editor to this focus menu, and there it is. It's listed directional light 1. So we'll just select it. Okay, and the first tab here's got position, a few other things. What we want is the second tab for right now. All right, so here it is. So the intensity shows up as 1.0. You know, that's a relative term. If in the end we wind up and we say, well, we don't have enough light in the scene, we may want to come back here and add light or take away light if it's a dark and moody kind of thing. And no matter how many lights you have in the scene, you're generally going to start with your main light, which probably has the most intensity of all the lights in the scene. Again, there's exceptions to all these rules that, that's why lighting people actually have to know a thing or two before they can start doing their work. Okay, now one thing we are going to look at down here is some of these parameters down below this, and in particular, we're going to look at this shadows section. Okay, there's two types of shadows. There's depth map shadows, which render more quickly but are not quite as good, and ray trace shadows. And you have your choice. And so I'm just going to turn on ray trace shadows here. And then you've got these parameters. We're not going to worry about the parameters quite yet. So that's it. That's all we're going to do for our directional main light. So now let's go to the fill light. So that's the point light. So here it is. Second tab. And again, we said the main light's going to tend to have the most intensity. So then we're going to set this as something less. Now, right above where this box is, there's this sample that shows you basically a little light shining on a black square. And I'm going to change this number from 1 down to about 0.25, I think, just to see what that does. And look at what happens in the sample as I do this. So 0.25 and hit enter, and boom, much darker. Now, as we said before, in the 3D digital virtual world, you can do all kinds of things that you can't do in the real world. Now this sphere is shiny, and every light in here by default would have a specular highlight, a hot spot, and we don't necessarily want that. Maybe we do, but let's look at it without the specular highlight from this point light. So I'm going to turn off the specular. Now that's something that obviously physics of the real world won't let you do in real world light, but we can here. So turn that off, and now we'll come down into the shadows. And since this is going to be a bouncing ball, if we had all the lights casting shadows, it would have shadows dancing everywhere. So we're just turning off shadows completely here, which is actually the default. So there'll be no shadows from this light, no shadows for you. And that's it for the point light. Now we can go to the fill light, or excuse me, to the backlight, which is our spotlight. And go to the second tab here and turn the intensity on this also down to 0.25. Again, look at the little sample above, gets much dimmer. We'll turn off our specular. You might want to leave specular on this. You can kind of play with that a little bit. And we probably don't want shadows from this either, so make sure they're turned off, which they are. Okay, that's good. We don't need to worry about anything else right now. Okay, and we're going to finish up with lighting here so we can bring our grid back. So display and show last hidden. And there it is back. Okay, all is right with the world. And come back to our camera view. So great, so that's lighting. Do a little preview here. And there it is. Okay, so we can see we've got the light, we've got our little highlight from our main key light, we've got a little bit of fill on the other side, so it's not quite as dark on the other side. See just ever so slightly bit of the backlight. Might want to crank that up a little bit if you were playing with this. That's the whole idea of these test render scenes, to see how things look. And one thing we don't have showing up here is that the checkerboard is not reflected in the sphere. Of course it will be, but that turns out to be something we do in the render settings, and we'll get to that in the next chapter. But that's about where we're going to leave this for lighting. Lighting is a I would say it's the Rodney Dangerfield of all these skills, which is kind of amazing, because if you're working in any kind of medium where the output is an image, the image that you're seeing is completely controlled by the light in the scene. You can put objects in there all day long, animate them like crazy. If you don't have some lights in there to get some virtual photons to the virtual camera, nothing else matters. And the whole quality and richness and drama and everything of the scene is controlled by the lighting. So, we just did a very brief overview of lighting here, but that's something when you're out there working and you're building your deals. If you're going out to images and you look at your final product and you say, wow, this just doesn't look as good as maybe some other things you've seen, probably one of the main differences is going to be the lighting. You haven't spent enough time on the lighting. And the lighting, everything's subtle about it. Animation is very blatant. It does this flow well. You can tell right off. But all the little visual keys and clues of lighting are very very subtle. So it's an acquired skill, and it's a very important skill. So hopefully in your career you'll spend a little bit of time going through and playing with lighting parameters and seeing what you can come up with. So that's it for this chapter. We're going to end it here. We'll close our little preview render view window, and we'll come up and save our scene, and we'll see you in the next chapter.